Interpreter of Maladies is a collection of 9 short stories written by Jhumpa Lahiri, published in 1999. The stories explore the lives of Indian characters living in both India and the United States, touching upon themes of love, loss, cultural identity, and communication. The collection opens with the titular story, Interpreter of Maladies, where we meet Mr. Kapasi, a middle-aged Indian tour guide and translator, who moonlights as an interpreter of maladies for a doctor. Mr. and Mrs. Das, an Indian-American couple, hire him to accompany them on a trip to see historic sites in India. During the journey, Mr. Kapasi becomes infatuated with Mrs. Das, and she confides in him about her failing marriage. However, Mr. Kapasi's dreams are shattered when he discovers that Mrs. Das is not the woman he imagined her to be. In a temporary matter, a young couple, Shobha and Shukumar, are coping with the loss of their stillborn child. The story revolves around the moments of intimacy and revelation that occur during scheduled power outages in their home. As the darkness brings forth their unspoken feelings and secrets, the couple finds themselves drifting further apart. Lahiri's third story, When Mr. Pirzada Came to Dine, follows Lilia, a young Indian-American girl, as she observes the impact of the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War on her family. The story centers on Mr. Pirzada, a Bengali man who visits her family to dine and watch the news. Through this experience, Lilia gains insight into the horrors of war and begins to grasp the significance of her cultural heritage. Interpreter of Maladies continues with a real Daruan, depicting the life of Buri Ma, a woman who claims to be a former royal servant. She lives in a Calcutta apartment building and spends her days sweeping the stairs and sharing her stories with the residents. As the story unfolds, the building's inhabitants realize that Buri Ma's stories may not be as authentic as they initially believed. In Sexy, the fifth story, we follow Miranda, a young American woman on vacation in India. While there, she becomes involved in a romantic relationship with Dev, a local Indian man. The story explores the complexities of cultural differences, societal expectations, and the struggles of finding true connection across borders. The sixth story, Mrs. Sen's, introduces us to Mrs. Sen, an Indian housewife living in the U.S., whose inability to drive and loneliness in a foreign land deeply affect her well-being. She hires Elliot, a young boy, to accompany her after school and run errands. Through their interactions, Elliot gains insight into Mrs. Sen's struggles and the challenges of adapting to a new culture. Interpreter of Maladies continues with this blessed house, where newlyweds Sanjeev and Twinkle move into a house filled with Christian artifacts. As they unpack and discover these items, the couple's differing perspectives on their newfound treasures reveal underlying issues in their marriage. The penultimate story, The Treatment of Bibi Haldar, revolves around Bibi Haldar, a woman who has suffered from mysterious fainting spells throughout her life. Her search for a cure leads her to a doctor, who eventually becomes her husband. The story addresses the societal stigmas surrounding mental health and the importance of understanding and empathy. The collection concludes with the third and final continent, in which an unnamed narrator recounts his experience as a young Indian man moving to the United States. He rents a room from an eccentric elderly woman, Mrs. Croft, and navigates the challenges of cultural assimilation. The story reflects on the journey of creating a new life and finding a sense of belonging in a foreign land. Overall, Interpreter of Maladies is a captivating collection of short stories that delicately portrays the struggles and triumphs of Indian characters navigating the complexities of cultural displacement and human relationships. Each story offers a glimpse into the lives of these characters, leaving the reader with a profound understanding of the universal human experience.